I'm Mr. Ritchie.
And we are the
educators.
And we sound like we're in an echo tube. Because we are in the same room. Yeah, in between a ring light.
That's right.
That's how we play this game, everybody.
That's right. We are socially distanced. We are here and still working in our school. We have not gone remote yet. Definitely something we did not expect. You know, it's probably for the better, you know, for keeping families sane, but it's certainly an interesting situation when you are the teacher with 10 kids that struggle to wear a mask appropriately, and but we're making it work. We're making it work here.
It is October 16th. It is Thursday. It's early. That's why we're doing this, because I signed up for something where I'm playing music outside while people act in a graveyard. And it's weird, and it's raining right now, so I'm thinking it's not going to happen tonight, but I haven't actually been told that, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Trying to make some entertainment for the Halloween season, which has certainly changed this year because we are still in the middle of a pandemic, and the numbers are creeping up. However, good news is locally here in Maine. Well, I mean, good news. I mean, it's only down, you know, what is it, 16 from last week, so 197 new cases over the last week, which 200 new cases in this state, still a little bit too much for me to be comfortable with. I have not done the math for the U.S. and the world. We'll resume that next week. We're having a bridged episode today because we've got people to see, places to go. But yeah, so 197 cases here in Maine. Luckily, as of right now, supposedly 0 in our school. So I think that's the number that counts right now. We have all of our classes back from quarantine, and all of our staff is back, so we finally have a full staff again. However, there are school districts nearby that are getting either their first case or, you know, more cases. So still out there, still lurking around. Just can't wait for cold and flu season and for freezing temperatures.
I know, and that's one of those things where you got to be ready for that. I mean, I feel great having a mask on actually outside. Playing outside, being cold, but actually having this part of your face covered up is great. It's like, I was like, wow, you know what? I would have had a neck gaiter anyways if I would have bought those in time, you know, or had like a scarf around my neck. Hey, I gotta have a mask on. That's great.
Yeah, it's better than a beard, you know, that you have to keep on the whole time. You know, like sometimes I'll go and shave my face and just be like, oh man, why'd I do that? It's so cold out here. But you know, the mask is actually all right. We're getting used to it. I don't even have, my ears are even feeling a little bit better, so
yeah,
pretty good.
I don't have like a mask rash or anything like that. It feels
yeah, I do have to keep that a little more under control these days, because like you go to a few days of stubble. I hate shaving. I go to lift up my head and look at something, and it will like yank hairs out of my goatee and just be, you know, a little strange. And you know, kindergartners walking in, I've got a mask on, and I have these kindergartners that just came in for the like a second day today, and they're still just not sure who this guy is. You know, their teacher is a much different person than I. And they come in and they're like, who is this guy? Why am I in this room? He's got a mask. And the mask is just really sort of not helpful for these young kids, because I'm sure there's like a level of trust that.
Oh yeah, we can't see his mouth. We don't know what he's gonna do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but no, so things are going. So let's see, what do we got here? How about some science in the news?
Yeah. And I would do one last thing, mention that we are 1 month out from our like Bane end of the world apocalypse mask that we ordered.
Yeah, I put my order in yesterday. Did you?
Yeah, I ordered the extra magnetic eye shield. So we're gonna try to do an episode with these on.
Yeah. And now I had ordered a vented one because it has filters for the vents.
Yeah.
And I think that you ordered a ventless.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, you know, it'll just be interesting to see the difference between the two. Yeah, and we'll see if they accept mine at the school. They say no vents, but because the vents are filtered, I think that that's a work around.
Yeah, that's a good thing. So yes, next section, science in the news. We have a couple quick science items. Some of these, one of these I've heard all week, and I don't know what it means for us kind of yet. But the first thing is the FDA has finally approved an Ebola treatment, which Ebola was that thing that we were really like all about in Africa. Like, was it last year? Even last year?
Yeah. And it wasn't last year; it was the year before.
Yeah.
And Maine was even in the news for that because we had a doctor that came back from elsewhere that like she didn't want to quarantine or something like that. There was an issue with quarantining and all this stuff, and it's just so interesting to look back at those days and be like, oh, they were worried about quarantining for just a couple of weeks, like that's nothing anymore.
Yeah.
But so if there's one thing that you don't want to get more than coronavirus or SARS-CoV-2 is Ebola. Now that's a whole different world of
losing
disease.
fluids, and yeah, if you look it up, it's really horrible. Body aches, diarrhea,
Yeah.
bleeding inside and outside the body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It is something on another level, and it's like if this coronavirus was something like Ebola, the world would look entirely different right now, and the rates would be very different, the reactions would be very different. I wonder if social acceptance of mask mandates, social distancing, which isn't going over 100% right now, I wonder what that would look like. Would people say, we got to build up our immune system and get out there and get that Ebola, or any of those other crazy whack job ideas that they've got that, it's just the flu. Yeah, okay. Like, unfortunately, it's the high survival rate is really good, but it's unfortunate that a lot of people take that as a reason to ignore current pandemic. But if it was Ebola, I think that everybody would have a whole different opinion.
that whole thing when someone got sick and then they go, it must have been something you ate, whatever, it'll go away. And then it doesn't go away. And they're like, man, what did you eat? And you're like, it's not something they ate. It's a virus. Like,
Yeah.
And anyways, why would it be like, it's just something I ate? Like,
Yeah.
Don't get into that situation where it's something you ate. Always make sure anything you put in your body is like prime nutrition, fresh, all this stuff. I mean, don't go into that. I read an article before that mentioned if you had food poisoning even once, it affects you for the rest of your life. And it does something in your system that actually does affect you for the rest of your life. Because it can kill you, but your body doesn't kind of really get back to that original state, which...
Well, food poisoning is like a bacterial infection.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're learning now. I mean, a lot of people, it's almost common knowledge just in the last 9 months that once you get a really heavy disease or even just a virus, like the virus does not go away, and the markers of that virus usually stay in your body for a long time. Every cold you get is probably a different strain, and they're all in there coursing through your veins. And so it's something that people got to think about. Like, that's interesting. I'm sure that it does affect people for the rest of their life because, it's pretty miserable to have a virus is one thing, but bacterial problems are another level. So we don't need any of that. So I definitely approve that message of putting in quality food.
Wow.
That's right.
Next up, it says first room temperature superconductor.
Yeah. So I have only heard of like super cooled superconductors. Like, think if you just take either oxygen or nitrogen, get it down to the freezing point or a liquid point where it's just this blue liquid rolling around. It's like magnetic, and it's got all these very, very interesting properties. But I'm really curious. I have to look into this one. I'll be honest with you. I did not get a chance to look into this one, but superconductor that's at room temperature is something that could be very big. I know superconductors have been studied now for quite a few years, but there's not really a whole lot of uses for them. Part of it is the temperature. You're going to have certain temperatures, and in this case, if it's room temperature, it doesn't require all that super chilling equipment that it takes to get like nitrogen down to a superconductor level. That's cool.
Yeah, and we could go more into this things, but they need superconductors for many things. In fact, one of the, I knew somebody worked at National Superconductor, I believe, in Portland. Maybe it might change the name. Semiconductor.
So
semiconductor. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so semiconductors, of course, are what we're using in every device and everything like that. Superconductors have this like next something or other, but like I'm just looking at this, the information here. They squeezed a material in between two diamonds, and I've never seen a picture of this before, but it literally is just two diamonds at a point, just squeezing this material. And the reason why they're using diamonds, of course, is because of the strength and probably some other properties, I guess. But like, this is like, it's like, what do you call it? Like when people used to think that you could make gold out of other things, like
squeeze,
alchemy. Like this seems like the new level of alchemy, except that this one actually has potential.
It says it appears only at high pressures at the beginning, so it's limiting its practical usefulness. So under really high pressure, this thing does amazing things.
Well, under high pressure, usually temperatures go up. So maybe they must squeeze it, let it sit, let it get to ambient temperature or something, and then check it out, I guess. But you know, this is the leading edge of material science right here. So I don't even understand it, and that's awesome. I love it when I find things I don't understand, because it just means there's so much more to learn.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping things that are making news that are actually, you know, some news that, because it was another item I didn't put on today that I'm not going to mention, that was something that didn't seem that important.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. In fact, I'm going to mention an item in a little while that I don't think is really that important. I mean, but it kind of is in my wheelhouse. I thought I would. The next one, though, is the blood type. You've heard this probably all week. Blood type may determine COVID-19 severity and susceptibility.
I have heard that too, from a different source, I think. And it was like they were questioning it. They seemed to find trends, and I think that what you had read kind of sort of followed up on that. But yeah, so if you've got blood type O, it means that you've got the antibodies in your blood for the other two, or I don't know how they divide it up. You know, like an A. You know, there's two types of A and B and all that. So I have O blood, and I'm relieved to see that. But my wife and child have A type blood, and so I'm like, well, I guess I can't celebrate that much. You know, it'd be awesome if all of us had the same type of blood type. Do you know your blood type?
No, I mean, I saw some blood. It's pretty bad nowadays when you couldn't have some litmus paper that comes in the first aid kit and it touches your blood and then just it tell you what it is. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not a very complicated test that they could make, and I don't know why. You know, maybe that would be, for a lot of people, that would be like, oh, great, I get this blood type, and they can maybe put in their pseudoscience thing and stuff like that, but it's something people want to know anyways, so it's like, why not do that? I wonder even if those blood glucose monitors tell you your blood type.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I actually don't even know what the difference is. I've never really looked into it. I just remember when we were having a kid, I was O positive, my wife was A negative, and it made my child A positive. Like, this is the way that, you know, that it works together. And but it also, when I read this, it also makes me think, are there other applications, are there other advantages or disadvantages to blood type? Because we don't really hear that very often.
No,
like,
they made a book a long time ago that says you need to have a diet for your blood type, and that it's complete BS and this and that. And so if they call it eat for your type. My mother got on that boat for a little while. And
yeah, that definitely sounds interesting. Like, I could only imagine, like,
my blood type says I should be eating all meat all the time. And something like that. And it's like, really, I mean, there's so many other factors going on. It's just, I don't know. If you're out there and believe that, please comment and
prove us wrong.
Tell us why you think it's real. Please don't send us the videos that our charlatans talking about their pyramid scheme and stuff.
That's right.
So
last time for that.
We're going to head to space, because that's what we're going to be doing anyways.
That's right.
Is turning space images into music. Yeah, see the piano back there? Makes astronomy more accessible.
Interesting. Is this for like sight impaired people, or just as another way to?
What they basically said is just made everyone more interested in space.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
Well, there's been some things that they're kind of goofy and they're not really like sounds, but like the sounds of the planets. You can find it on YouTube, and it's like, so what they do is they take like the electromagnetic energy coming from a planet, turn it into audio wavelengths, but they slow it really far down so that it is audible. So I mean, it's like it's producing sounds that are based off from other, like, electromagnetic data, and so it is, really working, finessing the data, whatever, but it sounds really cool. And each planet does have a different electromagnetic radiation, so therefore it produces, when they put it through this algorithm, it produces a different tone and sounds pretty neat. So if I am all for anything that gets people into space science. So yeah, turn in more space images. And if you've heard of these, send me the best one. I want to check it out.
All right, I'm gonna try something because I don't know if everyone's hearing echo on their end, and that might make everyone be like, "Oh, this is a horrible episode." With that, I'm gonna have you mute yours. I'm gonna feed you a microphone.
All right.
And we're all gonna go through my system, only being recorded, but just yours.
All right.
So let's see if this works. So, you know what? Take you guys along with me to show you it's real. This is real. This is really what we do.
This is how production works, folks.
I think we'll just keep it like, maybe like that. There we go. Move this over here. Yeah. All right.
I'm sure that'll do.
All right. There we go.
Good. Yeah, have a shot. Excellent. Still got my ring light on me. Right.
There we go. All right.
Look at the difference a ring light does versus my usual desk lamps,
Okay, so boom, boom. Check your levels.
Check. How am I doing?
All right, I think we're good. Yeah. Okay, so we won't have that echoey thing. Sorry, everybody. Sorry you had to see us in our natural habitats. I mean, not that you don't see this already. I mean, we're public figures, right?
Yeah.
All right, topic 1. Time to get into it.
Why do we need to live on the moon?
We haven't really gone over why, right? We've talked a little bit about that. Like, this is how we've done in the past, but exactly why do we need to be on the moon?
We talked about why we're not on the moon.
Yeah.
But the why we should, we probably threw out a few things, but like,
the planets in disarray and.
Yeah, so obviously the moon is a lot closer than any planet. So number one, a stepping stone to Mars would make sense. It doesn't make sense for us to just do an all-up test where we're just skipping over this very convenient middle point and heading straight to Mars. And as much as I want to get people to Mars, and as much as Elon Musk disagrees and he's going to go straight to Mars, I think that at least on the national level, he's running his own private business. If he can get to Mars and make it work, that's awesome. I think that on the national level, like the long-term, human survival idea is we've got to start there. And there's so many reasons why, because we could get there with just an enormously less fuel. So it takes way less fuel to get to the moon. And when we're there, we could generate fuel. There's a few different resources available, like water, which you can electrolyze into hydrogen and oxygen, especially near the poles. So you literally just take some water, well, ice is how they're gonna find it. You melt it, put in 2 electrodes, probably made out of carbon or something, and zap the water. The positive gives off hydrogen and the negative with oxygen. Boom, easy. You got hydrogen fuel, rocket fuel, and you got the oxidizer oxygen to put into it. And so it works. And Mars does have ice, but Mars is so much bigger than the moon that to go to where the ice is one whole trek. To get to the equator, where it's more survivable for robots and people in general because of the temperatures, that's going to be an enormous trek, just to get equipment from one place to the next. I mean, that, if you're on the pole of Mars, they've got seasons, and the seasons are very similar to Earth. The axial tilt is almost the same. You will freeze to death on the poles of Mars. And, the number one reason that we talk about a few times is we've got to keep the human race alive.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to get off the planet. Or the only way to guarantee it is to get off the planet. We could still be on the planet for a while, but let's be reasonable here. It's not looking so good down here. And some people would say, why don't we fix it down here before we take off? It's not really what humans have ever done. Humans don't really do that. We usually venture. That's what we do. We adventure somewhere. We make something new. But yeah, that's.
I like the Neil deGrasse Tyson thing that I mentioned, that where he talks about people getting interested in sciences because we're going to the moon. Like,
yes,
we need to go to we need to have a big project where we're saying we're going to do this thing that seems impossible, and we're going to do it, and we're going to have this limited timeline. So let's get to it. And it's kind of lighting a fire in everybody. And then all of a sudden, all these innovations come out and stuff. I mean, if Apple and Google and all these places need to keep on coming out with smart watches and smartphones and gadgets for your house, to every time you sneeze, something's going to talk to you. Some robot voice is going to turn your lights off or whatever. Drones that go around your house and scan everything. I mean, if it's getting to that point, the only thing driving that really is the fact that they want to keep marketing new things. And it's like this, it's almost like they have to keep putting the numbers up. I mean, it's like sort of a greed thing for money.
Yeah.
Science, exploring someplace new, there's all of this stuff that can be put towards that.
Yep, absolutely.
That's why the moon is, even if we didn't end up there, it's like, let's shoot for the moon. And then, oh, wow, in 5 years, we end up with all these amazing new gadgets, maybe that help us live longer, which hopefully that'd be great. Just because we want to try to go to the moon. You know, let's go to the deepest place in the ocean. Great. All these other things come out. Now people can have pills that allow them to breathe underwater or stuff. Do we need a big, like, pie in the sky, shoot towards something that is seemingly impossible?
Yeah, that's, I think, what we need. Like, for instance, when we unlock the power of the atom, unfortunately, it was a weapon, that was developed. But once images of, like, the power and the ferocity of just these atoms, like a little ball of plutonium can cause such an enormous explosion, it got kids around the world going, what are atoms?
Yeah.
How does this work? And they grew up to become the future physicists. Perhaps maybe they went into the weapons side of it. Perhaps more often, there's limited nuclear weapons producers, but there are more nuclear energy producers, more ways to make energy and things like that. So it's there's certainly a lot to be said about inspiring the youth and inspiring people in general. Whether even if you're middle-aged or something, like you hear about something awesome like this, you're probably going to get involved. And there's all kinds of different ways to get involved. NASA has done as good as they can with what they've been given so far. But in order to do something like putting a permanent colony on the moon, we're going to be looking to invest a whole lot more. Right now, every taxpayer in America pays about half a penny of their taxes towards NASA. And what NASA provides with that enormously small budget is a lot. And I would be willing to pay so many more dollars of my taxes towards that versus for going to war. And I think a lot of people would do that as well. And unfortunately, with taxes, we can't choose unless we go and vote. So
it's like the results of like, if you could get everybody on the planet, or even just every American in North America or whatever, to send $1 to NASA. Just here's $1, just whatever. Don't go out and buy that candy bar. That actually candy bar costs more than that now, just send $1. That would be absolutely amazing. Just for the fact that what they could do would turn into something like, hey, if you give us $1, we guarantee you in 1 year, you're going to have some technology that resulted from us exploring this.
What we need is a TikTok star or YouTube star with like millions of followers to create this NASA challenge, right? Like,
just wear the T-shirt, like put the NASA T-shirt on and be like, hey, support this and you support me, and I'll make some more crazy videos of me dancing to this music that you seem to like.
Yeah. And that would generate so much energy towards NASA and, of course, money, which unfortunately is what they need to keep making the magic happen.
Yeah. So this is the moon part 3. We could keep going on to part 4, 5, 6. what we're going to finish off with this thing is why this is not for everybody.
Yeah, some people just might say, yeah, it's not for me at all.
Yeah, and you got to think about how long it's going to take to do this sort of thing. Like, it's not like, even with the best technology in Elon Musk, it's not going to be in like 5 to 10 years that we're going to be. I mean, we could have some people up on the moon, just like we have people floating around, the Earth right now in a space station. But it's not going to be like, hey, welcome all. It's the Hilton. We need people to come up there. That's going to take a long time for that to happen. 20, 30, 50, hopefully less than 100 years, because I'm hoping by 100 years we're doing things. But it could take a very long time.
It shouldn't have to take so long, but it's true.
But so there is one thing we mentioned before, and we're not going to go too much in this, but there are personal beliefs that are too fundamental to people's priorities that they would not separate from that. So
number one, I think I just got to mention is the idea that one gender is more capable than the next.
Mm-hmm.
And, people with certain personal beliefs, like something like that, we can't have that around.
Yeah.
There's too much at stake to worry about these things that don't make sense. I'm sure there's more that we could talk about too, but number one, I think NASA has proven already that there are no limits. There's many other things too, but like NASA and the women of NASA have proven that there's just no limits to what women or men can do in space, and there's certainly no difference, real difference in performance.
Yeah, gender, race. If you got a brain, right, then you can help us. Someone with a brain that functions can help and do something with that. So that's going to be definitely. The other big thing is there are people, like I mentioned before, we talked about living forever, human immortality, people that don't want to do that, people that believe so much in sort of religious or whatever traditions they're believing in, where they actually don't want to live. Right. Because what they're going to hoping for is something that after they die, it's going to be the greatest thing ever. And in order to get to there, they have to die. So why would I want to prolong life on this planet if I could die and get all this other stuff?
And when it comes down to like an emergency situation, if you have someone that's just like, that thinks that the next step after death is this perfect place where everybody's happy,
they're not going to put effort into helping anyone else.
Right. Those microseconds that you could actually save the crew, those matter. And if you're sitting there going, well, here I come, like, then that's probably not the best attitude to have.
And I feel like if it gets chance to offer where people can do this, I'm pretty sure those people will not be. They're not going to want to go. The same thing with people not wanting to go down and live in a community like the Venus Project we mentioned, or on a seastead. They're not going to want to do that. They're going to say, no, I'm all set. Wait, we'll do this sort of thing. Or the same thing when people don't accept science. No, it's okay. We don't need the science. We don't need your medicine. We don't need your robotics. We're not going to have chips installed in our forearms. And then horrible things are going to happen to us but you might not have a chip in your forearm, but you might have a smartwatch. I mean, that's the thing. There's not much difference, right? Like, right. I can keep this thing on in the shower if I wanted to. But I mean, here's the thing. And we did talk a little about that last time, but I also want people to think about people being stepping stones towards others' goals. In other words, not that people are expendable at all. It's just like right now, we currently work as teachers. And as teachers, we are having younger students able to go on and do amazing things. And our job is just to literally expose them to all these amazing things, and hopefully they can do something with this. And so we're stepping stones for them. Now, are we going to stay in this role our entire lives? We are going to be teachers our entire lives. But like we mentioned, if we could be teaching on the moon and helping at other various levels, adults as well as younger children, it's something that definitely we'd want to do. So we can be multiple stepping stones, but there are some people that just want to do one thing in their life, and they're good at that, and they just do not want to do anything else. And they're probably not going to want to go to the moon because they're like, I'm fine being the person that helps to raise money for moon food, or raise money for making you moon suits for all the children that go to live on the moon. I'm fine being down here on Earth, helping bring resources that we can send up to you to help populate the moon with evergreen trees or whatever, would happen.
Yeah, and there, there's going to be people that don't pass the physical.
Yeah.
Like the physical, like I don't know, the things that are the forces put on your body and the things that could happen if something goes bad. They have to put you through this grueling test of a lot of different things, and some people might not pass that physical, and they might go, well, I still want to contribute, and there's going to be so much to do on Earth, because for the first part of it, the very first step, it's going to be they're not going to be able to grow their food on in situ. So it's going to be, do I want to make food, process the food, package the food, all of these jobs that could be. They're going to be needing constant resupply. So there's going to be lots of materials getting packed into rockets, shipped off to the moon. People working on the spacecraft to do that, and so there's going to be lots of opportunity for everybody, basically.
Yeah, and human longevity, as I was going to mention, it might not be is probably the best achieved on Earth, at least within the next 20, 30, whatever years. On another planet, bringing our science up there, the machines we might need to, it's basically, we need thousands of people working on this, and it's not going to happen on the moon.
And we're not going to extend human lifespans by placing them in places with high radiation counts and, questionable like food supplies. You might have to ration, and so, human longevity, of course, definitely, we're not designed, but we are equipped to live here on the planet. And so, I think that there's got to be, human longevity has certainly got to be in the mission statement of, lunar exploration, but certainly for the next foreseeable future, we got to figure this out on Earth.
Yeah. So you got some time. He's gonna go for his.
No, I got a couple minutes here.
Yeah, he's gonna go. Okay, good. I want to do one more big thing, and we talked about this last time. I'm going to share my screen quickly. I have something that I wanted to show everybody. Boom, boom. Here we go. It is Maslow's hierarchy, like we talked about before. So here we go. So we talked about this, like living on the moon, basically. You're going to want, what am I seeing? Share. Okay, great. So we get the physiological needs, which we talk about, basic needs: food, water, warmth, rest. You need shelter. You need safety. These are all basic needs. But of course, even under safety are the fact that you need for food, water, warmth, rest. Otherwise, you're not going to be alive. Mm-mm. This is the moon. For like the first 10 years, who even knows how long. This is living on the moon. This is the most important thing. If you're not good with this, like to a level where you can do this in the wild and survive, then nothing else up here is going to happen. Up here, stuff you could be working on now, and you probably should be, to prepare yourself if you're going to live on the moon for this stuff. Everything out there, your psychological needs, belonging, love, relationships, prestige, accomplishment, and then being self-actualization, self-fulfillment, all of this stuff, second in priorities to this, always should be. But you're never going to get here until you can master this, which is going to be the most important thing. So we mentioned Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is what we're talking about. It's a pyramid. And at the top is the one that not a lot of people actually get there, but at the same time, it's one of those things where you're going to be working your entire life for this thing up top, but you could just be doing this the entire time and still kind of reach here, right? You could be focused on your basic needs and still reach some sort of self-fulfillment from just focusing on basic needs.
Especially those people like that find working in a community and building the community as something that they're interested in. I mean, that is certainly, you could easily get self-actualization if your thing that you're interested in is creating a moon base. Like if you're working, 12 hours or more a day, you're probably working at least 6 days a week, if not 7. They might give you a rest day, maybe probably rest periods of a couple hours. But if you don't have that mindset that I want to be here, I'm here for a reason, this is what's building me up and making me wake up in the morning, then probably not going to last very long. Because after 6 months in space, people start having psychological changes because of the stressors and the differences and, you know, working with people, interpersonal relationships. And so obviously if you're going to the moon, you're probably going to be staying there for a little longer than 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, if it's going to be a colony. So, you know, there's a lot to think about. And we could, like we said, we could keep this going for many more episodes, but I think that's about it for this version of why we need to go to the moon. And I hope that you, if you're just catching this episode, go check out the other 2 prior to it, and let us know what you think.
Yeah, and we're definitely gonna do some more deep dives on certain things of space and just interesting aspects of stuff, because it's amazing with that. And hopefully some human longevity stuff too, and some futurism. We're gonna talk about futurism possibly next and do some more things. But here's our quick little thing. So hopefully you enjoy this. I'm Mr. James.
I'm Mr. Ritchie.
And we are the educators. See you later.